It's just past 5 p.m. across India. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in Paris today, Ross Cullen. Ross, what do you have for us today?
Hi, namaste, Tanvi, and hello to everyone. It's 12:30 here in Paris and across Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we will have the latest live from the Middle East on the aid ship coming from Cyprus and also an update on the unrest in Haiti. Back to Tanvi now for the headlines in the studio.
Indian President Droupadi Murmu attends the National Day celebrations of Mauritius as the chief guest, conferred with the honorary doctorate at the University of Mauritius. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi witnesses Bharat Shakti at Pokhran in Rajasthan. Tri-service military exercise demonstrates India's military might and indigenous capabilities. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval meets Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the ongoing conflict. First aid ship to Gaza leaves Cyprus port in a pilot project. And China, Iran, Russia start joint naval drills in the Gulf of Oman. The drills, dubbed as Security Bond 2024, are aimed at jointly maintaining regional maritime security. India's President Droupadi Murmu is on a 3-day state visit to Mauritius, where she attended the nation's National Day celebrations today. President Murmu is the 6th Indian president to attend the Mauritian National Day celebrations as chief guest. Her state visit underscores the long-standing and enduring ties between India and Mauritius. Earlier, President Droupadi Murmu was conferred with the honorary degree of Doctor of Civil Law in Mauritius. During her address, she referred to Mauritius as a close maritime neighbour and said that the nation is a cherished partner in the Indian Ocean region.
India sees Mauritius as a close maritime neighbour, a cherished partner in the Indian Ocean region, and a key player in our Africa outreach.
President Droupadi Murmu also commuted in a metro there before reaching the Mahatma Gandhi Institute in Mauritius. Remembering Mahatma Gandhi, India's president also paid floral tributes to the statue of the father of the nation of India. It was on this day that Mahatma Gandhi commenced his Dandi March to steer India towards freedom. Decades later, Mauritius chose this very day as its National Day to honour Mahatma Gandhi's contribution to the country's freedom struggle. Next updates from India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited northern state of Rajasthan today. During his visit, the Prime Minister witnessed the tri-service exercise Bharat Shakti at the Pokhran field firing range in Jaisalmer city. The exercise displayed an array of indigenous weapon systems. It was a demonstration of the prowess of the country, premised on the nation's self-reliance initiative. Pokhran holds a significant place in India's history as it marks the country's first successful nuclear weapons test. Conducted on May 18, 1974 in the Indian Army's test range in Pokhran, the operation demonstrated India's emergence as a nuclear power. Addressing the event in Pokhran, PM Modi hailed India's success and growth in the defence sector.
आसमान में ये गर्जना, जमीन पर ये जांबाजी, चारों दिशाओं में गूंजता है विजय घोष। ये नए भारत का आह्वान है। भारत शक्ति का ये उत्सव शौर्य की भूमि राजस्थान में हो रहा है, लेकिन इसकी गूंज सिर्फ भारत में ही नहीं, पूरी दुनिया में सुनाई दे रही है। हथियार और गोला बारूद, संचार उपकरण, साइबर और स्पेस तक हम मेड इन इंडिया की उड़ान अनुभव कर रहे हैं। यही तो भारत शक्ति है।
Moving on, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval called on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister updated him on recent developments in the conflict in Gaza. The two sides also discussed the efforts to release hostages and the issue of humanitarian assistance. Israeli Director of the National Security Council, the Israeli Prime Minister's Foreign Policy Advisor and the Indian Ambassador to Israel were also part of this meeting. This was the first high-level visit from India to Israel since the conflict erupted last year. Now, the first aid ship to Gaza left a port in Cyprus in a pilot project to open a new sea route for a population that is on the brink of a famine. My colleague Ross Cullen is in Paris. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ross, nations working steadfast now on this maritime corridor.
Yes, that's right, Tanvi. An aid ship carrying around 200 tons of food to Gaza left Cyprus early on a Tuesday. This charity ship is towing a barge with a lot of food on board, including fat, flour and water. The mission is being organised by American and Spanish charities. As the ship leaves Cyprus, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, she says all routes must be used to deliver aid to Gaza. Let's listen in now to a little bit more of what she had to say.
As we speak, a ship is setting sail from Cyprus to northern Gaza. It carries the most basic kind of humanitarian aid, which is almost the most needed today, food, plain and simply food for a population that faces a humanitarian catastrophe.
Well, that was Ursula von der Leyen there speaking. And in other developments, Hezbollah says on Tuesday they fired more than 100 rockets at several Israeli military posts in response to Israeli shelling. Earlier, Israeli fighter jets struck two Hezbollah sites in the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. The site belonged to Hezbollah's aerial forces that have carried out various attacks on Israel. Well, let's go live now to DD India correspondent Sarah Coates in the region. Hi, Sarah. What's the latest on this aid ship going to Gaza from Cyprus?
Hello there, Ross. This is the pilot program for this maritime corridor, taking this all-important aid from Cyprus to the Gaza Strip. We know that the distance this ship needs to travel is around 320 kilometres. It will take around 2 days, and on board, life-saving aid, life-saving food. This ship, known as the Open Arms, is also towing a barge. On board that barge, there is flour, rice and other protein taking to these people in Gaza who so desperately need it, with the United Nations saying that a quarter of the population there inside Gaza is now on the brink of famine. We do know there was a bit of a delay with this ship leaving Larnaca. It's been inspected by Israeli forces, who will continue to do this if this pilot program is successful. But one of the unknowns here, Ross, is that when this ship actually gets to Gaza, how will this aid actually be unloaded and then distributed, given that there are right now no working ports in Gaza? But we have heard from this aid group organising this pilot initiative saying that they are currently constructing a temporary pier, and they're using rubble from destroyed buildings in the Gaza Strip to make that, Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. But let's just get a second question in on where you are, DD India correspondent in Jerusalem. What's the latest from there?
Certainly, Ross. This is a flashpoint area, even when a war is not ongoing. Behind me, you can see the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is the third holiest site in Islam and is often the scene of extremely violent clashes between security forces and Muslim worshippers. Last night, the sort of first official night of Ramadan, was fairly quiet. We do know around 35,000 Muslim worshippers were allowed into the Al-Aqsa Mosque to pray without any major incidents recorded, although there was a very, very heavy build-up of Israeli troops, Israeli border guards, right around this mosque, and there is a lot of fear that this sort of presence could really see tensions spill over. Now, normally during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan here in the Old City, when you walk around these little streets, these corridors, these alleyways, you'll see many decorations, colourful lights hanging up, but certainly the mood is extremely different this year around. It's very sombre, people are on edge, and there is a lot of fear that there may actually be lone wolf attacks, given that Hamas has basically put out a call to Muslims right around the area to go out and use this Muslim holy month as a time of confrontation with Israeli security forces. So basically everywhere you walk around the Old City, there are many, many police checkpoints. They are making people lift up their shirts, checking women's handbags. And there is a lot of fear that now, given we do not have a ceasefire deal done, that this could really see tensions in this area escalate. Ross.
Yeah, thanks very much. Sarah Coates there joining us live from Jerusalem. So moving on to another side of this story, looking at the ceasefire efforts that are being made to try to bring an end, maybe a temporary pause to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Well, on Tuesday, Qatar asserted that it remained hopeful of a truce, even though they were not near to a completed ceasefire deal. Meanwhile, Israel has demanded that the United Nations Security Council put as much pressure as possible, quote, on Hamas to release all the remaining hostages. Foreign Minister Israel Katz on Monday addressed the 15-member council, which met to discuss the findings of a United Nations report on sexual violence carried out by Hamas during the October the 7th attack.
I'm demanding from the Security Council of the United Nations to put as much pressure as possible on the Hamas organization to release immediately and unconditionally all kidnapped hostages.
Well, the violence is spreading around the region and at least 11 people were killed, 14 others injured after a United States and British coalition launched airstrikes on Houthi rebels in western Yemen, striking port cities and also small towns. At least 17 airstrikes were reported, including the principal port city of Hodeidah and Ras Issa port. Meanwhile, Houthis fired anti-ship ballistic missiles at a Liberian-flagged container ship in the Red Sea, but did not hit the vessel. Moving on to the Caribbean now, and Haiti's unelected Prime Minister Ariel Henry resigned from his post on Monday after holding office since the 2021 assassination of its previous president. He will step down once his replacement is confirmed. And Henry's resignation comes after nearby Jamaica hosted regional leaders on Monday to discuss a political transition in Haiti. Ariel Henry is currently stranded in Puerto Rico after being prevented by armed gangs from returning.
Haïti besoin de la paix.
After the Council of Ministers, it has been agreed to set up a Presidential Transitional Council. Once chosen, the council will govern over different sectors of national life. Haiti wants peace. Haiti needs stability. Haiti needs sustainable development. Haiti needs to rebuild democratic institutions. I am asking all Haitians to remain calm and do everything they can for peace and stability to come back as fast as possible for the good of the country.
Well, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced an additional help for Haiti of $100 million after the United Nations-backed Haiti mission. He was in Jamaica, Mr. Blinken, for that high-level meeting, and he said that the United States will also provide $33 million more for humanitarian assistance.
Given this increasingly urgent need, I'm announcing today that the United States Department of Defense is doubling its approved
causing fire. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has claimed of doing everything possible to foil any drone or missile attack from Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed on Monday that the situation on the border, on the front lines, is improving over the last 3 months. He said that in an interview with BFM television, one of the main stations here in France, that Moscow's troops are no longer advancing after their capture last month of the eastern city of Avdiivka. Despite a shortfall of weapons, Zelensky said Ukrainians' strategic position is getting better. But he suggested that the situation could change again if new supplies are not provided soon. The SpaceX Crew 7 completed a successful splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico off Florida on Tuesday. The crew had spent 6 months aboard the International Space Station before their safe return. The mission launched in August 2023 from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in the US state of Florida on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And that's it from me here in Paris. Let's go back to Tanvi now in Delhi.
Thank you very much, Ross, for joining us from Paris. Ross Cullen there joining us from Paris. You're watching DD India Global. Still to come on the show. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says women and girls are suffering most from wars waged by men. Calls for action as women's rights face backsliding. German airline Lufthansa's cabin crew union goes on a 2-day strike seeking higher wages. 120,000 passengers likely to be affected.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Tanvi Taneja. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a bilateral meeting with Belarus's Minister of Foreign Affairs Sergei Alenik in New Delhi on Tuesday. The two leaders discussed political, trade and economic ties between the two countries and exchanged views on development partnership, defense, science and technology and education. They also discussed the regional situation and cooperation in the NAM movement, Shanghai Cooperation Organization and UN. India's Union Minister of State, Dr. Jitendra Singh, has launched the Common Fellowship Portal, which will streamline the entire process of accessing the information under various fellowship schemes. The Common Fellowship Portal will help in nurturing scientific temper in young minds for a developed India, Viksit Bharat.
Applicants through the complex landscape of STEM fellowships, ensuring that crucial information is at their fingertips. Enter the Ministry of Science and Technology's Common Fellowship Portal.
Staying in the region, in Nepal, candidate of the ruling coalition, Narayan Prasad Dahel, has been elected to the post of National Assembly chairperson on Tuesday. In the National Assembly meeting, Vice Chairperson Urmila Ariel declared Narayan Dahel as chairperson of the Assembly as 39 votes went in his favour. 56 lawmakers participated in the voting on both proposals. while one lawmaker stayed neutral. The upper house of the federal parliament has 59 members, but presently it has 58 members. Foundation stone of Sri Kedar Jyotipunj multiple campus school building was laid at the Doti district in Nepal on Monday. This project is being built with the financial assistance of Government of India at the tendered cost of 28.9 million Nepali rupees under Nepal-India Development Cooperation. The project is an important example of the very robust development partnership between India and Nepal. Political representatives, government officials and campus management committee were also present on the occasion. More from Asia. China, Iran and Russia started a joint military exercise in the Gulf of Oman on Monday. The joint drills, named Maritime Security Belt 2024, aims to collectively uphold and protect regional maritime security. 10 unnamed Iranian ships, boats and supply vessels and 3 naval helicopters are taking part in the exercise that will last until 15th of March. Navies of Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Oman, India and South Africa have sent their representatives to observe these drills. The Philippine Foreign Ministry announced on Tuesday that it had received several maritime proposals from China, but stated they were incompatible with the national interests of the Southeast Asian nation. Among these proposals was one that demanded actions indicating acceptance of China's authority over the second Thomas Shoal, which the Philippines rejected, citing violations of constitution and international law. China has presented a total of 11 concept papers suggesting approaches to normalize the situation in the disputed areas of the South China Sea. Meanwhile, China has asserted its indisputable sovereignty over islands in the South China Sea in response to the Philippines' decision not to entertain the Chinese proposal regarding the dispute.
China has indisputable sovereignty over the islands in the South China Sea, and there is no territorial dispute between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea. Based on the bilateral relations between China and the Philippines and the maintenance of peace and stability in the South China Sea, China has proposed initiatives to the Philippines to manage the maritime situation and carry out maritime cooperation. This fully demonstrates China's sincerity and goodwill in managing differences through negotiation and consultation.
On to South Korea now, where the government has set up a hotline for doctors on Tuesday to help those facing pressure for choosing not to join a mass walkout over healthcare reforms. This move comes as the protest enters its third week, with some medical professors threatening to join the protest by tendering their resignations. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres underscored the critical urgency of protecting women's rights, endangered by regressing achievements, escalating violence and a widening digital gender divide. Addressing the opening of the 68th session of the Commission on the Status of Women at the UN headquarters in New York City, the UN chief stressed that the disproportionate impact of wars on women was immense. He said in conflict zones around the globe, women and girls are suffering most from wars waged by men, urging immediate ceasefires and humanitarian aid assistance.
The facts are clear. Women lead to peace. Budgets and policies must follow, with ambitious targets for women's participation and urgent investments in women's peace building. It's time for governments, civil society, and the Silicon Valleys of the world to join a massive effort to bridge the digital gender divide and ensure women have decision-making roles in digital technology at all levels.
And we now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Spanish rescuers saved 38 people and recovered 2 bodies from a migrant boat headed to the Canary Islands from West Africa. 4 critically injured people were airlifted to a hospital, while 34 others were taken to the port of Arguinguin. There were 7 women among the survivors. Two New Zealand skiers died after they were caught in a snowslide in Hokkaido, Japan. According to local reports, no avalanche warning was issued in the area before the accident. Firefighters were called after the sudden occurrence of an avalanche that buried 6 people. Swedish police on Tuesday detained Greta Thunberg and fellow climate activists who were blocking the entrance to Parliament in Stockholm for a second consecutive day. Thunberg is protesting against the effects of climate change and political inaction by the Swedish government. And German airline Lufthansa's cabin crew union has announced a strike on Tuesday and Wednesday to demand a 15% pay hike. The strike is expected to impact departures of over 120,000 passengers from Frankfurt and Munich. The Federal Aviation Administration has found problems in the Boeing's production of the 737 MAX jet. The air safety regulator had initiated a 6-week audit after a door panel blew off a 737 MAX 9 during an Alaska Airlines flight in early January. The Federal Administration has issued a new warning of wiring issues on 737 MAX wing spoilers. The plane maker has failed 33 of 89 tests with a total of 97 instances of alleged non-compliance. Meanwhile, John Barnett, the Boeing whistleblower, was found dead in his truck at the hotel parking lot in South Carolina, US. The reason for his death is still unknown. And as we wind up this edition of DD India Global, we leave you with a story of ingenuity amidst the tranquil banks of Iraq's Tigris River. Meet Hashim Suwan, who spends his days searching for hidden gems among the stones. Armed with only a spray bottle and a torch, he expertly crafts jewelry from agate, quartz, jasper, learning his trade from YouTube tutorials. Despite lacking high-tech equipment, Suwan's creations fetch $20 to $40 in Mosul, a testament to his skill and the timeless beauty of nature's treasures. So where there's a will, there's a way. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at DD India Live. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.